Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show, featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast where one of the hosts is known in the streets as Mel Biter Jr. That's Lenny. He doesn't actually bite, but he likes that reputation. I'm Mina Kimes, and here, you need a nickname, by the way.
Well, I smiled because I thought you were going to do this. When I was doing draft coverage, it was the first thing I ever did, like late 2010s. I was like just out of college, and I looked even younger than I look now, if you can believe it. The fans did call me Mel Diaper Jr. every so often.
Yeah,
and unfortunately that rips. That's a good nickname.
Rolls off the tongues. You just got to grow the hair up. That's Ben Solak, who is rejoining me ahead of the draft. He has been diving into prospects because, can I say what you're doing at the draft? Ben is going to be part of our digital draft show, which is very exciting. Where can folks stream that? YouTube or?
Yeah, ESPN YouTube. So recap at the end of round 1, and then we're live all day, round 2 and 3. Cole Kublik, Harry Douglas, Harry Lyles, Matt Sims. It's going to be a party. We'll have a good time.
That'll be great. So you are like knee deep in day 2 or 3. We're not talking about day 3 prospects today. So last week we did the quarterbacks with Nate Tice. This week we are going to talk about skill players, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs. And as promised in the titling and thumbnail of this show, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to give you kind of my tiers for them. We have not talked about how we see any of these players, I think. So
it's always fun. It's always fun because everybody has in this time of year, they have their people that they talk to about everyone. Like I talk to Nate probably every single day about like, okay, did you watch this guy? Like, oh, I'm watching him, whatever. And then just outside of that, they have the people that they don't talk to. And it's so important to do pods with the second level of people. Otherwise, you're just echo chambering only those that you've already discussed every podcast for months.
We might wildly disagree. Nate was funny. I mean, we had some disagreements. He's obviously higher on Riley Leonard than me. I think he's higher on Riley Leonard than everyone outside of maybe Riley Leonard's mom. Although didn't his mom do the "you suck"? That's
right. His mom when he was a Duke was
maybe he's higher on.
Yeah, Leonard was asked like, oh, what sort of difficulty have you overcome in your life, right? And he was like, well, I told my mom like I feel like I haven't really overcome that much adversity, and so my mom told me, well, just you know what, you suck. You're not good at this. Like, all right, Riley Leonard's mom, let's do it.
All right. So we had a few minor discrepancies. I think you and I will too. So we're gonna start with the receivers in the first half here. And I have them sort of tiered. The ones that we're going to dive into, I have them, and I gave you a little bonus where you can talk about anyone. But guys who are likely to go in the first, second rounds, I have kind of 2 tiers. I have Hunter, McMillan, and Golden. Pause. And by the way, this is also the order I have them ranked, but the tiers are kind of how I think about it.
Yeah.
And then I have Egbuka, Burden, and Jalen Noel. Noel? I gotta get that right.
I'm pretty sure it's Noel, but I'll double check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are all, I mean, that's like the slot tier, basically. And I've been doing these mocks, war room mocks, Ben, and the slots keep dropping because the teams don't need slots. So I think I think the first tier are all very safe to go in the first round, the first 3 receivers. But I think the second group, it could go in any order depending on how you regard the players. So let's start just here. How do you see the players I just mentioned? Are there any that you have sneaking up above them?
Yeah, so I would have Golden below the McMillan Hunter tier. I like Golden for who he is. I think that you have to be careful with reading too much into this sort of thing. But the way that people talk about Golden, I think, is very telling because you hear about from the Houston program to the Texas program. No one was ever really like, oh, this rising round 1 receiver, right? Like, here he comes. And even coming into the draft, it was like, oh, Matthew Golden is a good player here. Like, he's got some value. I remember you watching him on film before the combine, kind of like, hey, like, I like this Golden kid. He can separate vertical from the slot. Like, there's a lot going on that's good there. And then he runs that sub 4.3 and kind of all of a sudden it's like Matthew Golden, top 15 pick. And that feels pretty rich for a guy who struggled with drop problems over the course of his career.
We'll get into him in detail. You don't have to.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We're just doing it right now.
Natural transition, yeah.
I know, it's okay. Okay, so you have him below, and then what?
And so then I would have Golden, Egbuka, and then I would have another break, and then Burden would kind of begin my 3rd tier. And Noel would be in that 3rd tier for me, along with a few other guys. I'd have Jack Bech out of TCU there. I'd have Jaden Higgins, Iowa State teammate, in there as well.
Man, how did Iowa State land on the? I was late to those guys because there was no reason for me to watch Iowa State. because there were players like Golden who I started watching because I was watching Ewers, and immediately I was like, wow, Quinn Ewers, no thank you. Matthew Golden, yes please. So yeah, it took me a
Jalen
second to
Noel
get through
on
that
Twitter
statement.
2025. For people who do not know yet, my last name is pronounced like Noel. Had this question a
No,
lot lately.
okay,
We love a self-aware prospect
yes.
tweeting out some pronunciation. Very helpful, Jalen. Very helpful.
Okay, let's talk about Travis Hunter.
Mhm.
So, I right at the combine, we talked about him. He was kind of the first player who everybody got into for obvious reasons because of the fun debate. What position should he play? At the combine, I was asked about it. I had watched some of it because I had watched a lot of I think I'd watched 6 Shador games by then. I can't remember which ones. Before I took time to go back and watch Hunter specifically on both sides of the ball. So I'd watched just some Colorado games, and I was at the combine like pretty. I wouldn't say adamant, but I said, I think he's just his ball skills and athleticism make him such a special corner. I would make him a corner. He's going to be an all pros corner, and it's easier to play cornerback and mix in some receiver.
Yeah.
Since then, 2 things. Having gone back and really just watched him as a receiver, my official Travis Hunter take is it doesn't effing matter.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God. I also think where he is likely to go in the draft, he is likely to play receiver because of the teams picking in the top 4. And also there's obviously financial reason for him to play receiver. So anyways, I want to be clear. He could also play corner and be awesome, but we are talking about him as a receiver today. And to my eye, he is very clearly the best receiver in this draft. He is an unbelievable receiver. I'm excited to talk about the reasons why. How do you feel about him as an offensive player?
Yeah, so I'm still holding the line on because I was with you on the corner take. It's a very like annoying football guy answer, but he moves like a corner. When I watch him change direction, when I watch him, just the way that his body is built, and then the way that his movement happens, it's very much like, oh, that's the guy I would mirror and match with. Play man coverage. There's so much fluidity, so much looseness, and such quick twitch. So to me, he moves and looks like a corner. Now, if you excise the part of my brain that knows he played corner and just showed me the Colorado offense, say, hey, this is their wide receiver Travis Hunter, I might say to you, oh, like he moves like a slot. Like I might just like forget entirely about the whole corner background because yeah, when he's on a free release that with no press coverage, when he's given freedom like two-way go and some looseness in his route, because I think that right now like some of his timing is not great and some of his precision is not great,
Yeah.
but when he's given kind of that backyard opportunity, I remember when Jerry Jeudy came out and some of the clips on Jerry Jeudy, right, backyard, I call them TikTok routes, right, because they're kind of like, they're good for the cutoffs, they're good for the
Right.
highlights. Some of that movement is just like it's 99th percentile. It's unbelievable stuff. And then you bring up the ball skills. Hunter's catch radius is enormous.
Insane.
It's so big.
Okay, let me put it this way. I posted a clip of him. It was in the Cincinnati game, which was one of the ones I got to later, where he like a DB is literally like suplexing him on the sideline. I don't know if you remember the one. It's a go ball, and I'm like, and he somehow catches it, right? Like literally, the guy's like in his face, pulling him down by his helmet. He's reaching back because it's underthrown. He pulls it in, and I think what I would say about his ball skills is this: there's a thing in basketball where when Kevin Durant takes a mid-range, I'm surprised when it doesn't go in. That's how I feel about watching Travis Hunter catch the football. When he doesn't catch it, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
When you watch him, you just get so accustomed to him catching everything that you're genuinely shocked if he doesn't reel in, not always the best balls. So that's yeah.
And he tracks the ball very naturally, which you like from both a corner and from a wide receiver perspective. And so he'll fight through contact. He'll get to back shoulder balls. He'll get to balls beneath his knees and above his face mask. And he may catch, like I said, at the radius. And then, again, both at corner and receiver, but talking receiver especially, a player of this size, right? Like 190 pounds he probably played at. He's a little bit slight. I would tell you that I expect issues playing through contact, where he's not going to like being pushed in his route step. He's not going to like being hit at the catch point. And that's just is not the case with Hunter. He is fearless. Hunter thinks he's made of metal, dude. Like to a point where you're like a little bit concerned about how willing he is to take those big shots, but he makes big catches through contact, which if you're going to be a downfield receiver for me at that size, that's a non-negotiable. Bigger people than you are going to hit you. Are you willing to survive it? And he is. So absolutely,
I think the size, which is really the only question I have about him, we can talk about the technical stuff in terms of the route running. The size only really shows up the line of scrimmage for me, to your point. Like there are, I think he will at times get pushed around a little bit but like how many bigger corners are there in the NFL? Honestly, whatever these days. It does not show up over the middle of the field. He makes difficult catches in traffic. He stays on his feet. I was trying to describe to someone how rare and special his athleticism is, and I'll talk about how it manifests itself in defensive play. But offensively, when you watch him, every single play, it's almost like a little mini John Wick movie where like he catches the ball and like the first bad guy goes flying by him
Mhm.
and then the other bad guys are like running behind him. And it's all because of his athleticism, because he has such a unique physical ability to stay on his feet, stop, start, move forward. He has great body control too, by the
Yep.
way, and then accelerate after the fact. It results in he just makes defensive players look stupid because he is such a unique athlete. Like when we think of athleticism, I think you think like, okay, is he fast? Is he big and fast? And it's like, no, 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 no. This is what ideal and like football athleticism looks like. It's like a rare combination of strength as his size, speed, and then the ability to, it's like he has better control over his own body than any
Yep.
human being should.
It's the Lamar Jackson theorem, where what's
Yeah.
Lamar's best athleticism? It's his ability to decelerate, which is never
Yeah.
something we talk about. Oh, explosiveness, 10-yard split, 40-yard dash jumps. No, it's the way that he can stop and then start. Hunter's stop-start ability is out of this world, and that goes to body control, that goes to flexibility, that goes to also field sense and vision. He has wonderful football IQ, a great vestibular sense. He kind of knows where the bodies are around him, who's going a little bit too fast, a little bit too slow. Like he has great feel. The receiver who he reminds me of in terms of that
I can ask you, yeah.
movement skill is Antonio Brown. Now that's like an otherworldly comparison, right? And I think that's unfair for a lot of different reasons. I think that Brown was just like a little bit more densely built and whatever. But in terms of the footwork and the stop start and everything, yeah, like Antonio Brown, the more modern guy is Justin Jefferson. Again, we're doing
Yeah.
preposterous comparisons here, but that's what makes Jefferson so good is the this change in the stride length, the change in the body control, stuff like that. That's what Hunter brings.
Yeah, the Browns, the thing where I see it too is like, it sorry, I keep doing these, like, weird analogies, but, like, I'm sorry, when you watch him,
It's
just
draft
it's what
season. That's
comes
what, yeah, weird analogies are
it's
for.
also when
Yeah.
you come to mind, he is not the normal player where I'm like, "What, like, 1990s tight end does this player?" It's like, no, like, which race car does Travis Hunter remind me of? But it is like watching that he has that, Brown's perhaps most special trait was his ability to modulate his own speed and his
Mhm.
own body, and he had this, like, tremendous tempoing ability, and I think and
That's
then
the
he would just
best verb. Tempo the route, baby. You got to tempo it.
it's literally but when you watch Travis Hunter, it is what you see. As far as, like, the, technicality of the routes, totally agree. That doesn't concern me one bit. The dude played 2 positions in college, like,
Mhm.
in a weird fake offense. Like, he's gonna be
Yeah.
fine. I
The question to ask is if I tell him, "Hey, go be responsible, just get into a speed cut and go," will he listen? And I think the answer is yes. He
yes,
clearly loves
dude.
football, but that's the question to
Yes.
ask.
Well, but that's the other thing I love about him. Like it when you watch him play, he plays so goddamn hard on every play. Like I just his obviously his football character is insane. The dude loves the game so much so that he played both positions at a high level without losing any effort. Yeah, he's just an absolute no brainer for me. I fell in love with him all over again watching the receiver reps. It's just like
Yeah. I remember one of the first things I texted you
makes
about the
you laugh.
one of the first things I texted you about the draft was like, Travis Hunter is prospect one by a mile, dude. Like it is. He's to me, he's so clearly better than Abdul Carter, than Cam Ward,
Whew, okay.
everybody in the class. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is my best I think he's the best player in the draft. I am very high on Carter, who I'll talk about
Mhm.
next week. And positional value factors in certainly there. But yeah, I guess to go back to kind of the original point here, like it seems likely that the Browns or the Patriots or maybe the Giants are going to play him a receiver.
Mhm.
All 3 of those teams. Let me ask you this, and let's wrap here. Specifically from the vantage point, and I say that about the Browns because Andrew Berry said he's a receiver. They also have very good corners on that team. Um, if they take him second overall instead of Sanders and play him at receiver, and I don't know, they trade for Kirk Cousins or whatever, do you think that's a mistake given where they are as a franchise?
For the Browns specifically.
Yeah, to play him at receiver.
Yeah, it's not a big one. It's not enough for me to be like, oh, draft
Right.
grade D. Like, I don't think it's like that tectonic of an error. I think that Travis Hunter has best corner in the league, mentioned with Patrick Surtain ability. I think he's that caliber
Yeah.
of a prospect at corner. And you say, oh, corner's not as valuable as a position as receiver. I agree with you on a macro sense. Okay, your second receiver gets a lot of touches. Your second corner is probably getting picked on. Like, you're right. At the upper tier, at the on the top echelon of players, man, if you have an elite shutdown corner in the playoffs, that is a field tipping, mathematics changing player. The same way that like a wide receiver one might be. And so if Hunter's that caliber of player, I think that that corner position does have the same value that the wide receiver does at that elite level. And so to me, yeah, that's still where I want to play him. I think he's that caliber of a guy, but I'm not going to get too flustered about it because they clearly need more offensive help than they need defensive help. They have the spots available at receiver, and I think he can be a wide receiver one at the NFL. I think he'd be that caliber of a guy. So I'm not going to get, too fatoutsed.
I do think it's more debatable for the Browns. I think for the Patriots, it's a no-brainer. You play him at receiver because of where they are, the need, what you want for the quarterback. Giants are more interesting too. I think that's one where I would actually play him at corner more likely. But yeah, it's he's a very good receiver.
Hunter and Malik Neighbors would be a headache and a half to deal with from a like design play perspective and all, and putting guys in motion. I mean, yeah, like I don't want to over index to what the teams need now though, because there's he's an unbelievable two-way player, but there's a little bit of predestination here. If you draft him and you start playing him at receivers rookie year, it's going to be really hard his second year, his third year to go, you know what, we're switching you to corner. Like, that takes effort. That takes time.
Well, I feel that way about the reverse as well. I understand it's easier to throw in receiver packages. I think whatever this dude starts out playing is what he's going to play in the NFL.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I don't want to over index on my 25 needs and then predestine the guy, and then he would have been better corner than receiver.
When I meant from a value standpoint, I meant more for him. Like
for him, yeah,
playing wide receiver. So, yeah. And by the way, I don't want to say to his credit, but like I don't think we've heard a peep from him in that regard. Like that he has a strong bent, which is I think fascinating. I mean, just get this guy in the building. I laughed watching. It's hilarious. Okay. So T-Mac, Tetero McMillan, who does not like to go by Tet, goes by T-Mac.
Yep.
Is a really interesting prospect because he is one who, like, I think at the beginning of the process, I saw kind of falling down people's boards. Now it seems like he's kind of climbing up a little bit. But it seems more likely than not that he is going to be the second receiver taken, or first, depending on what happens with Hunter. I think that's correct. So, I believe we're in agreement there. He is unique in this draft, which is part of the reason, like, why there's really no one else like him. I guess Higgins is the other big contested catch guy, but he is not at all, I think, comparable to him in terms of what McMillan brings to the table as a mover, as a contested catch guy, first and foremost. Unbelievable hands, really attacks the football in a way that I love. He's got really, really good body control as well. He's not a speed guy, but I don't think he's slow at all. Watching this tape, I felt like he had perfectly functional NFL speed for a player of his size. Really smooth with the ball in his hands. So all of that said, why do you think he's dropped? Because if I told you, dude is, what is he, 6'4", 6'5", one of the two?
Yeah, 6'4".
Catches everything, doesn't drop the football, big plays. That seems like something that a lot of NFL teams need, Ben. Like, what do you think's behind it? And do you disagree with some of those reasons that people have?
I think it's the case that, one, we always find the new toys, right? We knew about McMillan coming into this season. We didn't necessarily know as much about Golden. And so Golden, has his emergent season, so that gets exciting. And then a guy like McMillan's never going to win the combine, certainly not by not testing, right? Yeah. And then obviously Golden has himself a big day. You have even the Iowa State receivers. You heard a little bit about the two of them, and then both of them have very nice combines, and all of a sudden they get vaulted kind of into more of the conversation. And so a player like McMillan, who does not run well on a 40-yard dash, ran a 4.53 at his pro days, is the kind of the official number. That player's just not going to rise during the pre-draft process unless he has crazy jumps or insane measurables. And McMillan has good size, good length. It's not like, Mike Evans walking down the carpet. The comp for him from my perspective is Cortland Sutton. McMillan 6'4", 213. Sutton was 6'3.5", 218. Sutton ran a 4.54. McMillan ran a 4.53. I think that you still see a good vertical presence in Sutton. He's so good on that 15 to 18 yard route menu, that deep comeback, because he has enough vertical juice to stress you, to get up on your toes, but it's his ability to be big when the route breaks, win with physicality, keep you away from the catch point, and then he just catches everything. You brought up McMillan in contested situations. He's got a volleyball background, and we love a volleyball background at receiver because those guys tend to have really good body control in the air. They have excellent timing when it comes to addressing the football, and then they have aim, they have accuracy. They get their hands to the ball because they're used to striking. So you see that with McMillan. He's just so natural when he elevates. And so I have a guy who can win back shoulder for me. He can win red zone for me, and then he has good enough routes and good enough explosiveness to win on that intermediate breaking menu. So to me, that's a wide receiver 1 through and through.
Yeah, I wrote in the end zone, it's like watching a center play the post, like just throw it up. He's going to come down with it. He really brings you a lot of value, as you said, in the red zone. But Sutton's interesting because he looks denser, right? I think, but I will say while McMillan he has a slender build, I think his size, or rather, his strength shows up on tape. He's really good at using his frame to box out DBs on like short and intermediate in that sort of Drake London way, who is another guy who occasionally gets comped to because he's big. Like he will win outside the numbers, but he also wins on slants and digs in a way that I think will translate to the NFL. It's I don't know. I've been puzzled. The new toy thing I think is big. I think like there's been in recent years like large contested catch type players who have not succeeded in the NFL. And so I think maybe there's a little bit of well, how do I put it? Overemphasis on separation. Like, well, they're not separating. I don't see him wide open a lot. Like I see Matthew Golden open, but I don't think it's concern if they catch everything. So, yeah, he's not going to get open as much, but it's not Quentin Johnston. He literally catches everything. So
right. And Quentin Johnston ran a 40-yard dash that would imply to you that he's running away from people, and that's just not really the case. I talk about TikTok routes. Wide open separation is dramatically overrated, in my opinion. We're going to talk about Luther Burden in a little bit. Like, okay, the guy caught a ball with no one within 7 yards of him. That's hunky dory, and everybody can scheme that up for you. That's fine and dandy. It's the skills when things aren't schemed up that I'm interested in, and I can take McMillan, and this is not true of anybody else in this class. I would say even Hunter with some of the press coverage issues. I can take McMillan, I can put him over there. I can say, you're on the backside of 3x1, there's a corner opposite you, beat him for 4 quarters, and McMillan will say yes sir, and then he'll do it for 4 quarters. That skill, I don't have to scheme that up. That is to be more valuable than those players who are good at creating that big separation and go after the catch.
He looks athletic on tape too. Like he's not gonna be Travis Hunter where guys are gonna go flying because he can like sink his hips and stay on his feet and whatever. But I think he is plenty shifty for his size. With the ball in his hands, you really see in the open field, he moves smoothly.
He's long strider, yep.
Long strider. I don't know. It's just I'm like, there's so many teams. The Raiders are the ones we keep debating because they're picking at 6 between him and Jeanty, where I'm like, you don't want a big bodied X who catches everything. Like that's literally what everybody, again, we're going to talk about the slots shortly, but like nobody, like most teams don't need slots. They need this dude. So I just feel it's hard for me to imagine somebody not finding a home for him. Let's wrap there. Is there a team that you like for him in particular?
So I liked Dallas for him. I thought he was a very nice fit with CD Lamb. I said, okay, you can play him predominantly on the outside. We'll move CD Lamb into the slot. CD Lamb is my underneath separator. He obviously can bring some verticality to the offense. I can play him like I played Michael Gallup in that heyday where Gallup was playing next to CD Lamb, and he wins in the vertical third for me, and he wins those big one-on-ones. Apparently, they're a golden team. I understand the value of getting a field stretcher for them. But so I thought Dallas was a good team for Tet, and then I think Seattle's a great team for Tet. Just right now, they have Smith and Jigba, and they have Cooper Kupp. And it's like, all right, yeah, there's so many slots on this team. MVS is going to be playing 100% of the outside snaps. Like I need somebody who I can line up on the line of scrimmage. I don't need to put him in motion to make him successful. And again, he can win against those bigger outside corners. Those are the two teams that have always stood out to me.
If the Patriots are sitting there at 4 and Hunter's gone and Carter's gone, and they're looking at Shador as an option and they're trying to sell the pick, do you feel confident potentially that you could move down a little bit in the draft and maneuver and still get McMillan? Or are you so worried about getting Will Campbell or a tackle? Do you think that it's not worth it?
I feel like I'm so like they have multiple needs along the offensive line, right? Like they have spot for 3 new starters if they wanted to. And so to me, like I'm pretty offensive line pilled, unfortunately. I wouldn't, again, like it's like the Hunter wide receiver thing. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't say it's an egregious mistake. I think you got a very good player at a position of need anyway. So, you just have to figure out the offensive line stuff in the margins otherwise.
All right. So Matthew Golden is both of our wide receiver 3s, but you have him like a little bit further down. For me, he was a player who I kind of fell in love with watching Quinn Ewers. Because he just made yours right a lot. I mean, he was a big play machine, and a lot of it was his ability to track badly thrown balls, frankly. I mean,
Mhm.
another dude who just the top 3, now that I think about it, all just have great hands, which is a good place to
Yeah.
start in the
Which
NFL.
Golden was like known for drops coming out of Houston, and he has dramatically improved that in Texas. Now the drop thing is like how much can you actually improve it? So something to be cognizant of. But yeah, this season he caught the ball
He was
better than he ever has.
fantastic
Yeah.
and really, and it wasn't just hands. A lot of it was also just the tracking is what really stood out to me because like I said, some of those Ewers was spraying some of those deep balls all over the place and he was reeling down some really difficult catches. Um you mentioned the 40. It was a 4.29, I believe,
Yep.
at the combine. So that shocked me.
Mhm.
So let's start there. On tape, the things I liked about him, I never once wrote down long speed.
Yeah,
I
and they didn't
wrote
use him
like,
like that.
yeah, like I contested catch ability, footwork at the line of scrimmage. I think he's a controlled route runner. You can play him inside out. Um, movement skills, I think, to be more dynamic after the catch. So the speed surprised me because it didn't really show up at Texas, at least not to that extent, Ben.
No, I very much agree. And they had Isaiah Bond as well, who's an Alabama transfer, who
Who's
was the one who was kind of
fast.
saying at his podium, he was like, "Yeah, I'm about to break the Xavier Worthy record." He was kind of the guy they considered more to be their speed throughout their field stretcher. Golden they used more in the intermediate range. And so if you are drafting Golden because you're like, "Oh, true 4.3 speed, he's going to win over the top for us," I think you're just going off of physical attributes and not really film. I would also say that what Golden does best in his routes is not I beat you in 3 steps. Now I'm flying, but rather its ability to kind of modulate speed and tempo as routes, like we were talking about with Travis Hunter. He does a very nice job of upshifting and downshifting to kind of get corners in bad spots, and then he can accelerate into the football and then play well after the catch. So I like him much more on breaking routes in that regard. Size wise, just not as big as you'd like for an outside receiver to be, like 5'11", a buck 90. So he's going to kind of be a move player. Can play the Z, going to play in the slot a little bit, go in motion a ton. Like I said, and he makes those tough contested catches. He makes those plays over the middle of the field, and he's good with the ball in his hands. And so to me, this is like a very delightful wide receiver too. And if he has
Yeah,
that good field stretching
yeah.
ability, then okay, like even more the power to you. This is just not the size and body type that I want taking a large number of hits and a large number of volume. Now, at the NFL, like teams get away with having a guy this size be their wide receiver one, but still, it's pretty light for that sort of a role.
I wrote down. I don't think I've seen this. Maybe I haven't seen that many comps, but I was thinking about Ridley's rookie season
Yeah,
with Atlanta and the way that he was used and some of the production you got out of him. And I
with Julio
thought
there, yeah.
I could see, yeah, right, with Julio there. And I
Hmm.
was like, damn, I would love him with Julio. No, but I was thinking about it like, okay, like if he ends up in Dallas, CD plays X more. He is in my mind a classic Z. Matthew Golden is. I could see that working, especially, and then also like maybe some 2 wide receiver sets between the 2 of them because yeah, like he in a dream world is the guy who sometimes wins downfield, but also threatens downfield in a way that's clearing out opportunities for a bigger
Yeah,
body receiver as well or a slot. Um, and that's like again, like that rookie year Calvin Ridley was amazing. So like
yeah.
I want to be clear, like it's like a very flattering comp. Is there any player that he reminds you of or that you'd like
Yeah.
to see him use similarly?
So I go Jordan Addison, which
Yeah.
Addison is Addison came to the combine like 173 pounds, ran a 4.5, right? And it was kind of like,
Smaller. So
yeah,
Golden
yeah.
is what, 190,
190,
188?
yeah. So
Yeah.
Golden is remarkably thicker and more dense. But when you watch Addison play, that just fearlessness over the middle of the field, the ability to catch outside of the frame, make contested catch through contact, some of the field stretching ability, but better at getting deep and then breaking on the route, getting intermediate and then breaking on the route. Good when he's put into motion, can play the slot on the outside. That sort of a role. Obviously, he's in Justin Jefferson's wake. To me, that's where Golden's going to be the most successful. And I kind of when I watched Golden on film and you see the combine, I thought he was going to be a pick in that range. Oh, this is like a wide receiver that goes in the 20s, right? A JSN to DK Metcalf, a Jordan Addison to Justin Jefferson. He's gotten talked about a little bit richer than that now. And that's where I kind of, like I said, to me, he's a cut below Tet McMillan for me. I don't really like him in the top half of the first round just because the role I see him filling. But yeah, like if you're getting a thicker
Yeah.
Jordan Addison, you're getting a really handy player in the NFL.
I feel like outside the top, it just like what teams need. It's just so I hear you, but you
Hmm.
know, like it's not a vacuum where it's like, yeah, in perfect world, sure Sanders would be like a quarterback taken in the late first round, but that's teams need him here. So it's just I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel the same way about Golden, where it's like, okay, like I believe there's a pretty decent drop off to the next tier we're about to talk about personally. So, um, let's get to it. So I mentioned 3 players, Egbuka, Burden, and Noel, sorry.
Mhm.
Um, let's kind of talk about them together, right? Because I think that's the decision that a team would be making. Uh, Egbuka versus Burden is to me a classic floor versus ceiling debate.
Mhm.
I think Burden has the higher ceiling because he's such an unbelievable athlete, but I also think he has a significantly lower floor. I was actually surprised when I finally watched him after hearing people were so excited about him earlier in this. I was like, not a lot of routes here.
Same thing.
I mean,
Same thing.
it's just him with the ball in his hands. And dude, he is really, really crazy. I mean, he has really special movement skills. He's explosive, densely built, great, but he's just not like a receiver in the
Mhm.
sense that where like Egbuka, I wrote as kind of like a diet JSN is kind of how I see him. Very similar in terms of he's a slot kind of slot only, very like a quarterback's best friend type guy. The traits aren't as exciting, but he's just much more polished, I think. And it's very easy for me to imagine him being useful on an NFL team.
So I like Egbuka a lot more than you do. My Egbuka
Well,
line.
he's my wide receiver 4, so.
Yeah, I have been the tier up there with Golden, right? Like I'm like a kind of a
Mhm.
burden. You talk about like a diet JSN. I think he's JSN plus because I would say that he
Woo!
is.
Nah.
I'd say
No,
that
no,
he's
no, 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 no,
tougher
no, no.
down the field, and I say that he's
Absolutely
better
not.
making tough catches down the field as well. Obviously, Smith and Jigba had a very nice breakout year this year. I think here's my line on Igbuka that's like impossibly rich. I remember Puka Nakua's rookie season, all right? And when
Oh,
Nakua had
God.
that season, the entire 2024 draft class, we kept going, who's the next Puka Nakua? Who's going to be the next Puka? Oh, who's it going to be? Who's the upcoming Puka? And if Igbuka came out in that class, which was very like potential, but then he decided to go back to school, that he would have been the guy everybody talked about like that because he is, firstly, he is unbelievably smart. I think he is like 90th, 95th percentile in terms of how he plays against zone coverage, how he works on scramble drill stuff. Igbuka is the first college receiver I've ever seen be good on bubble screens in my entire life. All these kids they're all knuckleheads. They all don't like to follow their blockers. I think they can make 4 guys miss in space. Every
Well,
bubble.
Travis Hunter can make 4 guys miss
Yes.
in space
And
on
that's
screens,
the
by the
problem. Some of these
way.
guys are so
So
good to
I
get
want
away
to
with
make
it.
like that. The difference between them is mental.
Egbuka is
Perhaps.
just behaves exactly how he's supposed to, and they give him jet
Yeah.
touches and behind the line of scrimmage and touches out of the backfield because he's just so reliable with the ball in his hands. He's very tough. He breaks and sheds first contact a lot more than he is given credit for. Again, the kind of like the JSN plus thing. When Egbuka gets that offhand activated, right, he's throwing stiff arms left and right. He's dropping his pads into guys. He is densely built, and he can break some incidental tackle from the secondary. And so to me, Egbuka's value is dictated on just how much volume is available to him, right? Like he's going to be at his best in a role that kind of gives him that Cooper Kupp sort of usage, that JSN sort of usage, where it's like we are like 10 targets, 11 targets because you're so reliable. He's not creating enough big plays to be that valuable on 5 targets, 6 targets a game. But
where are
man,
the big, like
like
I feel like the floor is high. I just question the upside because I just don't see that sort of same athleticism either with the ball in his hands or the ability to separate downfield. I think JSN is a better separator, to be honest. And so
Jason's
you're
quicker
getting
for
more
sure.
big plays out of him. Like I think about the deep overs or, that Gino would hit to JSN. I don't see Egbuka kind of having that same production in the NFL. That said, like there is a lot about him I like. The reason why I have him at the top of the slots. You talked about a lot of it. I think he's really, really smart. I just love his feel versus zone coverage versus man, is a little different, but I think he runs with great vision. Like you said, they give him the ball in the hands a lot as either a back or on sweeps, and he is, I think, very, very savvy. He moves smooth. He's not like it's not like a Burden where you're like, whoa, that guy's moving at a different speed, but
No,
he
very
is
smooth.
similar to McMillan, like a very just smooth mover, decent speed. And yeah, I have the screens. The screen I think about versus Marshall, the one that he housed. I don't know if you remember watching that
Yeah.
one. I just think I've seen Godwin comp to him a lot, which is again an incredibly great comp because Chris Godwin's. I don't think I think that's like definitely the high upside for sure. But it's very easy for me to imagine him again in the right role being a very useful NFL player. The question for me is just again, like, what's the right role because like
I,
there's so many teams picking in the second half of the NFL draft. Who I'm just like they don't really need this type of player.
if he went to Baltimore, he'd be out targeting Zay by week 9. Leading target getter second half of the year. Houston, he'd have 6 games this season where he got more targets than Nico. My guy.
Houston makes more sense to me than Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore's tricky because they don't really play 3 receivers, and I think they still want to get Rashad on the field. But like, Baltimore hasn't had a well-behaved receiver who catches what he's supposed to catch and runs where he's supposed to run in years.
There's reasons for that too that go beyond just the types of players that they scout, in my opinion. Yeah, it's like I said, it's so tricky because like the teams picking in the like everyone wants to give Green Bay a receiver. None of these receivers. I saw Egbuka visited Green Bay like recently, but I'm like, really? I don't know. I just don't. It's just not. They have guys who do all this. I don't know. I don't see it.
They don't have like a slot who blocks, and Egbuka's also that. And like I feel like LaFleur would love to have a slot who blocks, but also if you're spending 23 overall on Egbuka because you want a slot who blocks, that's like a little bit rich.
Really quick on Burden. I don't want to be too dismissive about like he's just a gadget guy and he's only catching balls in the backfield. He's not running real routes because there are again. I think he has really special athleticism. I think he's got good hands. He hits some. He'll catch back shoulders and slot fades here and there. And I think he's what I was gonna say. I think he has like a lot of traits that could make for like a really good back in the NFL. It just feels like a real dice roll to me.
Yeah. Like people want him to be somewhere in the Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel spectrum, and I just don't even think he's that caliber of a tackle breaker in general. But even if you like him as that caliber of he's physical and he's fast and he can break those tackles, he just is not the sort of route runner that Jamar Chase was coming out. He's not the sort of contested catch guy. Go back and watch Deebo South Carolina. He's like catching stuff above the rim of the corner draped over him. Like Burden just does not have that skill at the catch point. Burden does not like physicality in the route stem right now at all. Does not like to get pressed. When he gets contacted in the stem by like underneath zone guys and linebackers, knocks him off his spot in a big way. He doesn't get to his route on time, and then he'll lose at the catch point to size, right, where he'll fade away from the catch point because he's getting bullied at that spot. And so when he's clean, really nice ball tracking, he'll address the ball high in the air, and when he has the ball in his hands, he can play with physicality, but he does not like it as a receiver right now. So you have to give him designed touch stuff. Now, what I will say is a lot of the complaints that I have about Burden now and the issues that I have with him are not dissimilar to those I had with Brandon Ayuk when he came out of Arizona State, where I was like, okay, like, there's a JUCO guy. He came up to ASU. Like his routes are not good right now. He does not like physicality. He only runs a few routes. Like I don't know what this is supposed to look like in the NFL. And then Ayuk went to San Francisco, and it took a minute, right? There was some conflict there, and there was some difficult conversations, but he got his head screwed on straight with routes, with physicality, and became a really dynamic 3-level player for the Niners. And so there are worlds. I love Burden as like, all right, round 2, we don't need him to produce right away, but let's see if we can get a star receiver out of this. It's the round 1 conversation that's too rich for my blood.
If not for Hunter, I would say he is the most fascinating mover in this group, like the most fascinating athlete. The way he moves is different. And he's one where I'm really not trying to like Tony him or whatever, but like there are just a lot of recent examples of guys who move different where it just doesn't translate into.
Oh, Kadarius Toney. I was thinking it was like Tony, like Tony Romo going Jim, and I was like, I don't know what the reference here is. Yeah.
So my guy so then I said you can just pick a receiver that you're kind of into. I'm gonna hit Noel because I did have him in my that tier of slots, and I ended up kind of elevating him over Higgins. I like both of them, to be clear. I think they're both really interesting and fun players, and I love both of them in the second and third round. Very, very different players. Obviously, Higgins being the big-bodied, contested catch, slant guy, goal line guy. I think he's a cool player. Noel, to me, though, I mean, I'm just looking at some of my notes. I feel like he can come in and produce immediately at the NFL. Like I think Higgins, I see like maybe it'll be up and down, and there'll be a game where like kind of Keon Coleman-y, to be honest, like type season. Whereas Noel I find to be much more polished, and also to have a skill set that really translates to the current NFL. I mean, you talk about he's not like Cooper Kupp, but I'm saying like an offense like that. It's like very easy for me to imagine coach looking at him and being like, here's a guy who's going to be where he needs to be when I want him to. He's a polished route runner, quarterback friendly target, has really improved his hands over the years. I know he had a bad drop rate earlier in the career, but games that I watched this last year at Iowa State, I thought he had great concentration and made a lot of difficult catches. He's a decent blocker. You can align him tied to the formation. I just feel like he has a very desirable skill set for a lot of NFL teams.
Yeah. The idea of Golden. Oh, this is a guy who can play in the slot and he runs routes, he can catch underneath me, but then he can also stretch the field with big routes down the field.
That also
That
is,
is, yeah, that is more prevalent in Noel's film than it is in Golden's film. Talk about how a lot of that for Golden is a projection because of the testing. Noel's a guy who, right, it would be very funny. They would line up 2 receiver sets, Noel and Higgins is in the slot and Noel's outside. And you're like, this is not the way the size is supposed to, that the big guy's supposed to be on the outside there. But they have the ability with Noel to put him over there, and he'll run those deep posts, those climbs, those overs, and he's just got gears on gears on gears. I mean, he just opens the tank, and he will pull safeties, he'll pull linebackers. He's got great gravity when he does that. So you have a player who I trust on the routes, I trust the footwork, I trust the hands to be able to produce underneath. But then when their quarterback play was not good, but when they got someone to uncork down the field, and it's the Iowa State quarterback was driving me nuts this year.
Rocco Bech?
Bech was the one. Yeah, 3.
Yeah, it's his dad. No, it's not. But for a college quarterback, I thought made some kind of fun throws. Golden's a better catcher of football. I think Golden has better hands than Jalen Noel. But I just feel like Noel's. I keep going back to this phrase "quarterback friendly," but I think that really jumped out to me. Is he's like just really good at. He's really good at getting open and making himself open. And I thought you saw him display that ability versus both man and zone in a way that I just think you don't have to really take him off the field. I think he's just like a really, I could see him being a wide receiver too. I think right now, probably like where he's drafted, he'll be, well, I don't know where he's going to get drafted actually, but certain teams, and maybe he's more of a 3, but I could see him being absolutely being a 2 in the NFL.
I wrote down Marvin Mims for him, and with what Mims became for the Broncos over the course of the season, right? Started out the year, oh, look at us throw the screen to the guy to the backfield. Oh, we have like a little running back playing receiver. Cool. By the end of the season, it was like, man, we will throw the ball to Marvin Mims 5 or 6 times a game. We'll give him some downfield opportunities, and we're also going to keep him in the design touch game. That to me is the Noel usage and the sort of impact he can have.
Who's your receiver that you want to highlight?
I love Jack Bech out of TCU. Oh, I think he's so good.
Can you come up with a comp for him that's not a white guy? Challenge, go.
I'm pretty sure I wrote down at least one non-white guy. Cooper Kupp was the one where I was like, oh man, he's the next Kupp. We found him, which is obviously unbelievably rich. Let's see. My best comp, I had Kupp. I wrote down Michael Thomas. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Dude, come on. Michael Thomas is crazy for
the ability for a high size player, right? He's 6'1", 215. He was like a kind of like a quasi tight end wide receiver when he first started there at LSU, and he slimmed down a little bit to play wide receiver. But that dense, bigger body, who is very good on underneath routes, and then is ridiculously good after the catch. And that's the thing about Bech that I think is so attractive. He becomes a runner very, very fast after he catches the football, and he'll break multiple tackles. He is very hard-nosed, loves contact, wants to go hit a corner, wants to go find a second one. He will be tight-roping on the sideline, trying as hard as he can to stay in bounds so he can go hit one more person. Absolutely loves to run over guys. Regularly finishes, in terms of short yardage, in terms of goal line. Like, he is a nose for the line to gain. So he's a highly useful player underneath. And then there's some downfield utility with him. A lot of it is like double move stuff and design stuff, but he's not so slow, and he's not so kind of thick and running back size that you can't use him in the intermediate range as well. And he's great at making those tough catches over the middle. He's got a nice big catch radius. Like Kupp, he's got better testing on the agilities, 3-cone and short shuttle, than he does on the jumps. This is a weirdly quick, good change of direction player for a guy playing north of 215 pounds. So that's sort of a value in a Shanahan offense, where I can get a guy who's playing north 210, 215, the ball in the underneath areas with space around him, and he's really good after the catch. I think Bech could be a year one highly impactful receiver taken outside of the first round. Love him.
Ooh. I don't know, man. I just saw a lot of Bobo.
Yeah, that's not wrong. Bobo was like a 4.7 though, and Bech is not a 4.7.
I know. I don't really see the downfield stuff in the NFL, but he is unbelievably tough. He is really good with the ball in his hands, and I think, and the toughness really shows up on the in-breaking stuff you talked about. So I again, right team, I think your vision could manifest itself. He's definitely going to be one where the team he lands at will, I think, go a long ways towards determining what happens. All right, take a quick break, come back, take a quick break, come back,
quack quack,
and have The tight end debate. All right, we are back. So the debate that I am teasing or have alluded to is one that I think as more people watch the tight ends more closely, it has become like a real debate. And that is Tyler Warren versus Colston Loveland.
Yep.
Um, so starting here, I assume I haven't asked you. So the way I view it, I have them like in a dead heat. I still have a slight preference for Warren. I know you don't. I saw you post that. But I really think, as we're going to talk about, it depends on usage, destination, whatever. Though I have Loveland and Warren, and then I have a pretty significant drop off personally to the next tier of tight ends.
Same.
My tight end 3 is Mason Taylor. And then there's a bunch of really good tight ends who I would put in that next tier, but I think I got Warren and Loveland and then like a pretty big jump. How about you?
Very strongly agree. I think it's a really nice tight end class. I think this is a great year
Yes.
need a tight
Fun.
end too. You have a guy who's on, final year of his contract. You're starting tight ends 30. Like, this is a great year. Go get you a Terrence Ferguson. Go get you a Harold Fannin Jr. Go get you a Jackson Hawes, Mitchell Evans. There's just like guys on guys. Third round, fourth round. I think it's a good year for tight ends in the top 100. For me, yeah, very clearly, Warren and Loveland are the 1-2 tier. I have Loveland. Like, Loveland to me, I think I gave him a mid one, and Warren I gave him a late one. So I've Loveland like a cut above, but I can understand why some teams would prefer Warren. Then big gap. Taylor's also my 3. Elijah Roy out of Miami is the guy that I'm not as high on as everybody else is, but the rest of
Same.
them, I love it. Yeah.
I'm also not that high on Arroyo. He's just like a big receiver, dude.
Yeah. We see
Which
this model a lot, and like the
yeah.
10-15% of the time that it works, great. The other 80% of the time, not so much.
There's so many good tight end 2s, like, well, I won't spoil it. Let's talk about Warren and Loveland. Okay, so I think I wanna start with Warren because I think it was sort of an opposite experience for me where, like, when I watched Tyler Warren first during the college football season and then, watching a couple of his games, I mean, they're just games where he just completely takes over the football game in a way that is really, really, USC, like, against good defenses too, not just USC, but like he is so clearly a special athlete and a special, like, he brings a level of physicality with the ball in his hands. Like, I honestly think, as far as like after the catch, I don't want to say he's like a generational tight end, but what he does with the ball in his hands to defensive players is truly special.
Mhm.
However, as I lived with it a little more and took time to watch him as a blocker and a route runner and against different kinds of coverages, I started to come off of my like, this is no brainer, take over a football game when I thought about him translating to the NFL because he does have holes in his game, blocking, running routes downfield, running routes generally,
Yep.
honestly. So I'm a little bit conflicted. I still have him. I just think he's so special with the ball in his hands that I still think he's going to be really good in the NFL, but I get the criticisms and I see the holes in his game. How
Yeah.
do you feel?
And that final point with the ball in his hands, he's so good, he's still going to be valuable. I 100% agree, and that's a little bit where the rub is. Because all right, you have a tight end whose best impact for you is going to be with the ball in his hands. That means you need to design plays to get the ball to your tight end, which is totally fine. Every single offense does it. But if you go and you look at the games, like you said, Warren takes over, like these highly productive games, a lot of it is predicated on we're going to be throwing him screens. We're going to be throwing him,
Cheating.
the shields and these rub routes. We're going to be, faking the screen, and then we're hitting him up the seam. Like, a lot of it is predicated on we really trust 44. We really like 44. We love him with the ball in his hands. Let's build this passing game, right? And they have all the goofy sets and the motion man putting him at center and 4 strong, this and the other thing. Predicated on, all right, if we just break defensive structure a little bit and get the ball to Tyler, something good's going to happen afterward. And in the NFL, like, it's very hard to get that caliber of treatment. You have to be like against 3 NFL caliber receivers that are also on your team. Like, it's harder to have that big a piece of a pie in the passing game where you're getting 4 or 5 designed passing games of play or passing plays a game that are meant to make Tyler Warren impactful, as opposed to a Loveland, who, in my opinion, just give him the tight end route tree. And like, he
He's a
runs it
very
very well. Yeah.
traditional tight end. We'll talk about him
Yeah.
in a second.
So that's my rub.
As you're talking about him, I this is not like obviously not a player comp, but I kind of feel like the upside of how like Debo is in San Francisco, where if
Yeah.
you have the right coordinator and the right type of offense, if you have a player who's such a physical mismatch for so many types of players, and you can find ways to either get the ball in his hands or threaten it in a way that affects defenses, you have the chance to do something really special. But, and I think this is to your point, like, it has to be so deliberate,
Yeah.
right? Like, is this Tyler Warren is not a player, and this is why I'm like, I've eased off of him as like a no-brainer, top 12, whatever pick. He is not the type of tight end you're like, cool, sit here, make it work, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
Nate did a great piece on them really quickly, and he talked about Trey McBride and some of the similarities with McBride, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of McBride's success comes from the fact that he's in that Arizona offense where he is not just it's not just like, hey, Trey McBride, get in line and like run an option route, right? Like they often use multiple tight ends in the field. And like you don't and it's funny though, like Ben, because like Trey McBride is one of the best tight ends in the NFL, right? So
Mhm.
like if you're willing to commit to the bit, he can
Exactly.
be awesome. And I genuinely believe he can be awesome if he lands with a team that is willing to commit to what he does well.
Yeah, the analogy that I like to use is what we saw from Brock Bowers last year in the record-setting year. When Devontae Adams was on the team, Brock Bowers was, we have a very good receiving tight end. Let's throw it to him underneath sometimes. Let's get him in the route tree. We like Brock Bowers. Devontae leaves. Now, no, Jacoby Myers is your only contender for any sort of passing game volume. Brock has looked awesome. And pretty quickly, like mid-season, that Raiders offense became, all right, we're going to run play action, slide routes until the cows come home. We're gonna throw Brock Bowers screens. Like this is the best thing that we have on our offense. I remember that Dolphins game where it was just designed touch for Brock. It's not like he's the only route available, but it's we're going to clear this out and run this motion, do this. Also, we can get Brock kind of the ball while he's moving. That you can have enough talent with the ball in your hands, and Brock is so good after the catch. You have enough talent to justify that. But in the ideal world for the Raiders over the next couple of years, they're going to get better at the receiver position. They're going to have guys that they want to throw the ball to there. And you're just going to see less of that menu for Brock, such that he's not going to be setting records for volume, right? That's my conflict with Warren, where I think that he can be highly impactful when he gets those 10 targets a game. If he's a 5 target a game player, because I have a lot of other good receivers, and now a larger percentage of his pie is his blocking work or his big play down the field potential.
Well,
He doesn't measure up relative to, I think, what we expect from some other first round tight ends.
There is a lot of value though in having a tight end or a receiver who, when you throw him the ball at 7 yards, he's going to get a fucking first down. Sorry.
And when you have,
I'm sorry, this dude. Like, let's take a minute and talk because I don't want to elide over it.
I agree.
He relishes crushing defensive players. Like, it is a joy to watch this man take on DBs.
He'll get his pads down to his like knee level to hit somebody, man. He will bend all the way over to hit them. It's so funny.
And he was incredibly useful at the goal line. Obviously, not. He was like a wildcat. We'll see how he's used in the NFL, and I think he will be used that way in the NFL too, at the goal line and like the low red zone. He's a monster. He's a monster. The blocking is weirdly sloppy. I think that's Loveland. That was one where I was like, oh, like as I watched Loveland, I realized like he was a much more technically refined blocker. Warren, a lot of his best blocks are in space on the kind of the backside of a run. He'll come across, but I think he can improve there because he's so strong. Like I'm not a blocking specialist, so and I don't know exactly like what are the limitations in terms of upside. Like he seems to like abandon it too quickly or whatever.
Right.
But it's hard for me to like because he's got the size and the strength. I feel like he can get better at it in the NFL, but it is right now an incomplete grade.
Yeah, so the issue is that he is length deficient, right? He at the combine measured 31 3/4 inch arms. That's 10th percentile for a tight end. So we have a guy who's 6'5", 256, but he's a little bit stubby. Now it's worth noting the NFL combine arm length measurements were like notoriously not good this year, but Warren completely did not participate in the Penn State Pro Day, which was interesting because he said at the combine, I'm not testing, I'm going to do it at the Pro Day. And then he did not participate in the Pro Day. So we have no testing for Warren at all. But so maybe his arms are, 32 1/8 and not 31 3/4 because the combine was bad. But there's a clear length issue. Like you say, he's good in space because he can just put his chest into a defensive back's helmet and just ride him, right? But when we're talking about first level blocks, combo blocks, being able to engage with edge rushers, defensive tackles, even linebackers, you see issues latching and sustaining because he struggles to get his hooks in because he's usually stubbier than the other guy. To me, that's a hard thing to overcome. Talking about the inline blocking stuff. He's much better, like you say, when you get him out in space.
Yeah, the latching and that is definitely, I was kind of having trouble articulating. It's like he doesn't really finish, I think, in a way that you would like for him to be a dominant blocker. Oh, I kind of like that. I'd never really articulated the Debo thing, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense from a like
it's the value of having that highly unique player that you're
Yeah,
gonna run
right.
into 8 defenses on your schedule who just don't have a good
Someone who can
answer for
handle it.
this, and
I
so, "Okay, we can
know,
just spam this button as long as we want."
and it's like, if Debo had landed with, a million other teams, he wouldn't have become Debo, and I think that is how I
Warren
feel
needs
about
that.
Warren, where it makes him a little bit tougher to talk about in terms of, like, what is his
So
grade? What is his
yeah.
potential in the NFL?
So if you could put Warren on one of the 32 teams, within the range of,
Okay.
like, tight end needs, whatever,
Well,
is
he'd
there
be
who do you
sick on
think?
San Francisco. I
Yeah,
know we just talked about them, but,
yeah,
like, with Debo gone, with Kittle, so you already have a traditional tight end, you live in 12 personnel, you got this guy in the field who no one can tackle, I mean, it would be
mhm.
unbelievable.
So Chicago, little Ben Johnson,
They've
little,
got Met already.
yeah, so he doesn't need to be in line as much.
I like Ben Johnson. I've always liked him as a fit for Chicago, honestly,
Mhm.
for that reason.
Yeah, he'd be so good in Jonnu's role in Miami. I get like
Yeah,
he's not
as
going
a
to go
move
there,
guy,
but in
yeah.
terms of the way they used Jonnu last year, just so much like the drag and the quick slant stuff, just like those little sit routes, 5, 8 yards down the field, then turn upfield and go hit somebody, go outrun
I
somebody.
mean, I'm convinced somebody yeah, like any of the I really believe, like, a lot of the like, even, like Sean McVay or whatever,
Mhm.
like, those play callers could find ways to make him really devastating to deal with.
Panthers at
Um,
8, it's kind of Gabe
nah,
Kennett. No.
I don't like that for him.
Hmm.
Colston Loveland, really so, like, we kind of talked a little about him without talking about him. Um, a guy who, like I said, I think with him, because the quarterback play at Michigan was so bad last year, I kind of forgot about him a bit. But when I watched him on tape this year, like you appreciate how good he was in spite of it. Just he is much more of your traditional tight end. He is an incredible athlete. He wins at all three levels. He is a really quick separator. I love his work at the line of scrimmage. I love him against zone. I love when he pulls away versus man. Um, although was it Barron gave him a hard time, which I really enjoyed that. That's a really great
Yeah,
matchup to go watch if you want to watch both of those players. It was kind of like a went both ways. I think he's got great hands. I think he's a good ball winner. And then I wrote surprisingly good blocker over and over. That was something that I just didn't resonate at all. My only real question about him is like I think with the ball in his hands, while he's a very smooth mover, he definitely does not have certainly the physicality of Warren. I don't think he has like the strength of like some of the top tight ends in the NFL. So he is not. It's not like Arroyo where he's just like a big slot,
mhm,
whatever. But he is not like he is not a bully in the way
yeah.
that, some people want out of their tight ends.
He's not going to break a lot of tackles because he's a little bit upright, he's a little bit leggy, and so it's hard for him to change direction. Right? He doesn't got a lot of wiggle. Loveland's not dropping his hips and shaking his head. It's not really in his game. And then because he's a little bit upright, he doesn't do as well as Warren does, getting his pads down, actually going and breaking a tackle. He'll finish strong and he'll fall forward, but he just does not have the frame and the disposition that leads to like I'm thundering through the herd and like leaving bodies in my wake. Not his play style. Short of that, I mean, he's so stinking smooth for 250 pounds. Like he
Beautiful mover at his size. Like his
mm,
routes, like when he breaks off his routes, I cannot believe how big he is and
and
how
and the
yeah,
stem. I mean,
how
he's
snappy he is.
three,
Yeah.
four strides. He's upfield. He's at top speed. He's putting pressure on guys. And then yeah, you tight ends tend to kind of telegraph their breaks because they don't really care. Like they only run 3 or 4 routes. Loveland will he'll move a defense back one way to take him another direction. He has an understanding. He has a good feel. He'll get to that void and zone coverage between the levels and he'll throttle right down. Right, you can just tell he knows what his quarterback wants from him, and then he can do all of this because he catches everything. Just
Great
below
hands.
his knees, behind him, above the rim. He's so good above the rim. And he's got the length for it. He's got the height for it. He is just one of those guys who you can tell is immediately going to be trusted by the quarterback. I think about what like Jake Ferguson became for Dak, where it was like, all right, you're in the seam, just put the ball anywhere. I promise I will go find this
Yeah,
for you, right?
right. Yeah.
It's that caliber of player. And it gives him some down the field potential, right? Some 15, 20 yard receiving potential. Again, talking about those seam routes, corner routes, posts. He can run those overs, and he can make the catches for you over the middle of the field because he has the size, he has the above the rim ability, he has the explosiveness, and he has the field sense. And so to me, like this is a plug and chug Y tight end. Just attach him to the hip of the tackle, give him the full menu of routes. He'll start delivering
Yeah.
for you in year one. So yeah, bona fide like first round pick, knock out of the park. I love him.
If you have an offense too with a quarterback who is willing to attack the middle of the field, you talked about Dak, and I think that offense that uses a lot of play action, he's going to get just absolute monster numbers.
Mhm.
Seattle is to me the floor at 18 because that's a
Loveland and
team
Barner, bring it back, baby. University of
right.
Michigan Seahawks.
a dream fit based on the kind of offense that they're gesturing towards that they want to run. We'll see. He is a lot easier to slot in again because he's just so much more traditional. Again, I will say I just think Warren is just really, really, really unique with the football in his hands
Yeah.
in a way that brings a lot of different sort of value. But I definitely feel it was an interesting process for me finally to go back and watch them. And I think, yeah, both are really good players.
Going back to the fundamental question, right? Like, so I grade Loveland above Warren because for me, I'm grading for 32 teams, and I can very easily understand how Loveland works in the NFL. It's not hard to figure out exactly what the sort of player is going to be. Warren's very unique, and so it's like, okay, like he lands in the wrong spot, bad usage, whatever. If you're grading for one team, you know what your staff is looking for, you want your offense to look like. There are plenty of teams that could say, oh, Warren is like we want to go get this guy and feature him. I'm like, yeah, you if you want him for that, like do not go draft Colston Loveland. It won't work. Go get Warren. That's where that difference comes into play. So like both players, Warren is polarized. He's like 99th percentile in some traits and like kind of below average in other. Loveland is smooth edges, baby. B plus, A minus, and everything. So it's pick your flavor. What do you need from your tight end?
If Ben Johnson gets Tyler Warren, he's going to turn him into an absolute
Yeah, it's gonna be a hoot and a holler.
That would
It's
be
gonna
insane.
be a hoot and a holler.
Okay. So we both have Mason Taylor as our tight end 3. Just really quickly, let's talk about why that is. Because I was like, oh, pick another one you wanted to highlight. You mentioned Taylor, and I was like, okay, well, he's my tight end 3, so makes sense.
Yeah, Mason is extremely smooth. Is the main thing. We have a 250, 255 pound player who has receiver like movement skills, receiver like traits. He catches the ball on the run, does not lose speed. He adjusts to the football very nicely. He can track it down the field, and he'll run some routes on you, right? Mason Taylor's been watching the Jerry Jeudy TikToks. He'll get up in the stem and give you a little give you a little push you vertical and break across your face. Like when he doesn't get featured in that passing game very much. He's really kind of incidental to it. But when they need a bucket and all of a sudden they kind of give Taylor an opportunity to shine as the primary, like he will outrun linebackers, he will out big safeties, and he will outroute them both. And so to me, there's a nice menu here for an option 3 and option 4 in a defense. Now, he's not the sort of blocker you'd like for him to be at his size. You'd expect a little bit more from him there. I think that you have to protect him in the running game a little bit. I think he'd be a lot better on some split zone stuff and kind of, with more like wide receiver alignments and cracking down on guys. Just not as good going punch for punch with the big dudes in the line of scrimmage. But I wrote down like a Tyler Higbee sort of a player where again, like, we are not, and he's tall like that. He's upright like that. We are not asking you to be the primary pass catcher, nor are we asking you to be like uniquely good down the field. But man, we're just going to give you a menu of short, intermediate breaking routes. He catches everything, and he's a surprisingly good route runner for his size. Taylor's Eddie steady for me in that sort of a role.
Yeah, the hands are really what elevated him to tight end 3 for me because the movement skills stand out. You can line him up in line. You can line up in the slot. He's not a dominant blocker by any means. You can throw screens at him, but for me, the plays that really jumped out were just some of the really difficult catches he made. Diving catches. I mean, Nussmeier is a good quarterback at LSU, so it's not like about that, but just really, really reliable. I think he can be a tight end 1 if he develops, but he has to continue developing. My guy, who is definitely more of a tight end 2, but just a player I came to really like, was Gunnar Helm at Texas.
Yeah.
Watching Texas, I came out just like liking everyone but Quinn Ewers. I was
not the incorrect read.
Golden, great. Gunnar.
They're gonna have between Helm, Banks, Golden, Bond, and then the center. They're gonna have like 5 guys drafted round 4, round 5, like the first 5 rounds, and then Ewers is gonna go like round 6. Okay, well, that tells what we need to know. Back blue. They're gonna have 6.
I'll just speak really quickly here because we got a lot of backs to talk about. Good hands, catches everything. Good after the catch, nice balance. I just think the ball skills for me were really jumped out watching it. That's probably the thing that I like the most about his tape.
Yeah, you brought up Warren and the improvement with blocking and some of the technique stuff. Helm was the guy to me who I was like, oh, he's got the want to, he has the tenacity, he pushes, he's got the length. He just makes a lot of technical errors right now as a blocker. He leans on guys, he waist bends. He has a high blocking ceiling. They would isolate him on edges, man. Like he's already fine. He has a high blocking ceiling if he can clean up some of that technique stuff. I liked Helm quite a bit.
All right, the running backs. All right. So I'll just give you, I did tiers again. Jeanty in his own tier. Omarion Hampton in his own tier.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Then I have a tier with both Ohio State backs, and this one is not I think is a little bit of a deviation, and maybe I was affected by talking about him before the combine, but Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee, who I just love.
Ooh.
I just love
Ooh.
him. That's a little spicy. Uh, then I have another tier with Skattebo and Caleb Johnson.
Okay. I'm not there with you on Samson. I can't get
I
with
love it. I
with
love
the
it. We don't have to talk about it because I
small
talked
guy.
about him
Yeah.
on this. You guys can go listen. I'm not going to talk about him today. I talked about him a lot at length ahead of the combine. I just love him for like a gap team. But
Mhm.
starting from the top, so how do you
Yeah.
what do you got?
So I go Jeanty and Hampton in a tier together. And to
Okay.
me, like you said, you're not going to find anybody higher on Riley Leonard than Nate. I don't know if you're going to find anybody higher on Omarion Hampton than me. I
He's a
think
great
Hampton
player.
is all that in a
I'm
bag of
excited
chips.
by God. He's a
And I
really
think
good
he's
player.
so good. The Cowboys could take him at 12 as running back too. I would not blink. I think he's that caliber player. So then tier break for me. Then I have the two Ohio State backs together in their own tier as well.
Okay.
And then enter a third tier for me. You get into the Caleb Johnson conversation. You get into a Bechel Tuten out of Virginia Tech, Damian
Okay.
Martinez out of Miami. Those are some of my guys in the third tier.
No Skattebo.
Yeah, Skattebo is. I love Skattebo. He's
Wait,
very
wait,
entertaining.
I'm going to talk about Skattebo
Okay,
because he's going to be my guy to talk about. Okay, so let's start with the top guys. Ashton Jeanty.
heard of him. Pretty good.
I don't even know where to begin this conversation. Somebody asked me, like, what is it about him? So the thing that is about him is so unique is the balance. That's just everybody starts there. Defensive players just bounce off of the dude,
Mhm.
right? But I think what makes him so unbelievably special and frankly generational is the combination of the balance with the vision and explosiveness. I think just I've never seen a guy, not never seen, okay. Very rare that you will see in a back make the first guy miss the way he does. And then after that, get explosive plays. I just, it's crazy, right? It's so unbelievably unique. And Ben, I really, I remember watching Saquon, and I get more excited watching Ashton Jeanty than I
Whoa,
did watching.
that's
I'm
huge.
sorry,
That's
I
big.
just he's just so unique. I don't know. God,
I'm not there. I think he is a hair below the Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley level of like back that goes in the top 5 as far as a prospect. Now, what he does do that's cool is see the future. That's the thing about Gent. Like you talked about that ability to make the guy miss and then be explosive. Genty's ability to, while making the first guy miss, start setting up the second guy in a way that allows him to beat the third guy is the thing where like there's no player whose film I rewound and played at
you're
slow
like, but
motion more in this class
how
than
did you
Jeanty.
do
Right?
this?
We were just like looking like what? Like
It's
yeah,
the little tiniest movements, the tiniest little head fakes, and
yeah.
like it's crazy how much he sets up defensive players at multiple levels.
And the feet as well. He'll hit a jump cut, and then the next play he'll hit a jump cut, next play he'll hit a jump cut, next play he'll hit a jump cut. And all 4 of them will be a little different in terms of what feet he gets down where and how far they get outside of his body. He's got that wonderful trait that a lot of great backs do, where the top half of the body never moves, vertical, perfect, square to line of scrimmage, and then the bottom half, the hips and the legs are just there's such fluidity, right? It's such flexibility. It allows him to be that like slalom skier sort of guy and that stop start. I mean, he is a like they talk about human joystick. Usually we're talking about like a 200-pound guy. He is a human joystick on steroids. He's that big, and yet still he has that movement ability. It's special.
Is the Saquon? Do you just Saquon's more explosive? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Jeanty hit a lot of home runs in the Mountain West and against the Pac-12 and against Penn State and you know some of the top guys. I just don't think you're like the amount of Saquon 70+ yard game sealing runs you saw this year. I just don't think you're going to get that from Jeanty at the
No, but
NFL level.
we're talking about him as a prospect, though.
Yeah.
Like you felt like in college.
Yeah, Saquon was more explosive. Saquon had better third level speed, and I think could be
He
beat
does
the
have better
safeties a
third
little
level
better.
speed.
Yeah, where that's just where Jeanty is just it's not his game. But Jeanty is going to just never have negative plays behind the line of scrimmage. It's so preposterous, but he's not. He's that good. He's that instinctive.
Those are the things that just stun me the most is like when guys, because Boise offense, I mean, it really depended on who they were playing because it's a really wide variety. But we did fortunately get to see Boise State go like Penn State kick up front, right?
Yeah.
Like there's teams on tape where you saw it. Just that ability, like when defensive linemen would get early penetration for him to either make them miss or just ragdoll them aside. It's so freaking crazy.
Pound for pound, one of the strongest players in the last few
Just
classes.
oh my god,
Whether it's the active offhand and it's the stiff arm stuff, whether it's the ability to drop the pads and go through a guy, or if it's just I didn't know I was about to be contacted. I'm in the first level. I'm among the trees, and I've got one defensive tackle has half an arm on me, and the linebacker's at my legs, and I'm just I would not like to go down. He is so freaking difficult to tackle.
he's so hard. I know. I was trying to the balance issue. The reason so he had 125 missed tackles for. I mean, his stats are hilarious, obviously. 5.42 yards after contact per carry, 7.3 yards per attempt, 125 missed tackles for us, which I believe, according to PF, was like the most they've ever charted for a running back. He had 2287 total yards, which was over 600 yards more than Omarion Hampton. I want to get back to that in a second. I think what I like though, like the missed tackles forcing, which is again the calling card here, that he either made guys miss or made them bounce off of him. It's that rare perfect storm of unreal play strength with terrific wiggle and just the brain for the position is what makes him so unique and so special. I get like I think we can talk about the value and where you take him and all that. If I had any questions, it would be the usage thing is, they ran, I mean, 227 yards. They ran him a lot. He didn't test this. I mean, this is not a ding per se, but
It's worth asking the question.
It's a question. And then he's not, like you said, at the third level, he's not like explosive. I don't think that matters that much personally.
Yeah. From the usage perspective and the draft caliber perspective, I do think it is interesting to ask, is the best version of your offense when you have Ashton Jeanty, like how many third down snaps are you giving him relative to a running back too, right? Because that was like kind of the Bijan thing. Like, oh, Bijan top 10, we're really going to do this. Like, yeah, Bijan's going to play 100% of the snaps for you. He was such a good pass catcher. I think probably just the way that Jeanty runs his play style and the amount of tread already is on his tires, probably in the best universe of your offense, you do have a good third down back and you're giving that guy 20% of the snaps, which does, I think, make it a little bit trickier to want to put a top 10 pick in a Jeanty. But then I just turn on his highlight runs again. I'm like, oh no, I don't care. It's fine. I'm going to pick him with the 6th overall pick. He's amazing.
So the whole value thing is, we don't have to have the running back value conversation a million times over and over, but I think Saquon is actually just a great case study for, you can take this generational prospect and if you put him in a crappy situation, it doesn't really matter. Right. But then he goes to Philadelphia, and if you put him in a good situation, not only is he awesome, it goes nuclear, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the right way to think about like spending a lot, whether it's money or in this case, it would be a draft pick on a running back. Like how much is he worth to your franchise? I think really depends on where you are as an organization. So when we look at possible places where he would land in the draft, Vegas, Chicago, Dallas is the floor. I don't think he's going to go that far. Do you think it is wise for a team like the Raiders to draft a player like this?
I don't mind it for the Raiders. I think the Raiders' offense is closer than a lot of people realize. With Brock and with Jacoby, I think you need one more good piece as a pass catcher, and you're kind of good there. With Geno in hand, this podcast's official stance is that they are good at quarterback and will be good at quarterback for quite some time. Offensive line in Las Vegas, I also think is a little bit better than people realize. So you plug Jeanty into that, you're well on your way to having like a solid offense, stem to stern. So to me, like, I don't mind it too much for the Raiders. They lost so much on defense that, like, I think corner is big for them and linebacker is big for them. I'd love to see them address those spots. For the Bears, heck yeah, brother. What are we talking? Like, absolutely. With the existing menu of pass catchers, with we know how Ben Johnson's able to use backs out of the backfield, with a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams, who would be nice to take a little bit off of his plate, be able to run the ball reliably. DeAndre Swift should not be prohibiting any team from drafting any running back at any level. Like the Bears, it would be, out of the park. I would love the pick.
You did say you have Omarion Hampton in the same tier.
Yeah.
Now you do have Jeanty above Hampton.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other question though. It's like, okay, well, like if you're a team, like what if you could trade down and get Hampton and also get picks? How much better is Ashton Jeanty than Omarion Hampton if you're one of those teams? Or if you're a team like the Raiders, the decision is more just like, do you take like a Tet Mcmillan, T-Mac, and then take one of the Ohio State backs later?
Mhm.
So it's not really about Hampton so much per se. Um,
Yeah, which I would
that's a
feel
tough one.
yeah, I would feel very fine with a trade back to go get Hampton because he's that caliber of a guy to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to fault any team. This class is lacking in blue chip talent, and Genti I think is one of the best just like position agnostic players in the class. And so yeah, like if you're going to say, hey, it is not a good draft for elite talent, we had a blue chip grade on Ashton Genti, we're just going to take him at 6, at 9, at 10, whatever it is. I'm not going to take umbrage with that. I think it's a perfectly fine way to build your team.
So Hampton, it's funny because I kind of feel like Loveland a little bit, where he's just like a very like plug and play, traditional, very talented running back who's kind of good at everything.
Hmm.
That's how I came. Like I was like, oh, like you have great size, you have great top end speed, you have great wiggle, you can catch passes, you're scheme agnostic. Like there's really like not a lot to not like. You know what I mean? He's like he's kind of he's. I think the difference between him and Jeanty is that Jeanty is like unbelievably special at a couple of things. I think Hampton is just like great at everything.
Yeah,
It sounds
yeah.
simplistic, but
I think the major complaint with Hampton is some of the vision stuff and how he presses the line of scrimmage, and sometimes there's errors there. But I also think like if you watch that UNC film, they're in this like shotgun RPO running style. Like Hampton is 4 inches away from the quarterback at the snaps. That way he can press the line like super vertically. It's a very weird backfield approach that I think is not going to be analogous to how he's used in the NFL. But boy, howdy. I mean, like, yeah, he's 5'11, 220 with wiggle, with explosiveness, with contact balance. The first player to him does not bring him down ever. It does not happen.
yeah.
And like I said, okay, there are vision concerns, but there's also, I'm willing to let this like high tier 90th percentile athlete get a little bit freewheeling there behind line of scrimmage, because when he breaks contain, and if it's, a surprising cutback or a bounce or whatever, he has everything you want to hit home runs, right? In terms of the long speed, in terms of the tackle breaking, the wiggle, the change of direction. You brought up the well-roundedness. He is good catching the football. He is
Really
really
good
good at
catching the
pass
football.
protection. One of the things that was very
Yeah.
weird to me, I learned this like last week. Like he did not grade well PFF wise in pass protection. I cannot figure out how that happened.
I posted a pass pro rep of him
Yeah,
yesterday,
I,
actually.
I, I
He's getting into it.
he
Yeah.
and he scans full field to full field. He will go from strong side to weak
Yeah.
side, and he will go pick up dudes that are not his responsibility. He will go
He has
two
the
for one.
want to.
He plays with good depth, right? He
Yeah.
goes. He doesn't just get to my spot and wait for you. No, he will go meet a player. Like to me, he is a 3 down running
Never
back.
has to leave the field. That's what I
Stumer,
just kept writing.
yeah.
This dude never has to leave the football field.
Stumer draft guide just came out this week. I was perusing through it. Stumer Sports. They have Omarion Hampton as 100th percentile for yards after contact, not 99th percentile.
Really?
100th. Yes, the best player for yards after
Interesting.
contact. He's that caliber of a tackle breaker, and then he gives me third down value. I mean, like to me, like
Yeah.
this screams Pro Bowler within the first couple of years, right? Pushing for all pro
Yeah.
list. Like I think to me, he is that caliber of a guy.
I think one thing there's a lot of things I really liked about him, but like, he is tall, right? He's not he's like he's the ideal size for a running back, really.
Yep.
But he doesn't play high. Like he has a really low center of gravity, which plays into the fact that he's hard to bring down. And then he also I think while he doesn't have like the best vision, he consistently gets skinny through the tiniest holes in a way that I really loved, and then explodes out of them. I think like again, if you put him to the team like Denver, picking at 22, where they are, or it's 22, right?
20 flat, I think they are. Yeah.
20 flat. Okay, sorry. All right, the Chargers 22. I think.
Yes, Chargers are 22. Steelers are 21. Well, remembering the draft order is impossible every year. It's so hard.
Home run pick for them is with that offensive line. Yeah, I just think if not for Jeanty, he would be like comfortably RB1 in a lot of years. He's a really, really good player. But there's so many good backs. Like both of the Ohio State backs are awesome. I have them in my next tier. I do have them behind Hampton. They're both really freaking good. And
are you a Treveyon Henderson or Quinshon Judkins?
I went back and forth on that like 100 times.
Commit. This is the moment. You're not allowed to change afterward.
I'm going to cop out and say it depends on the team and your needs.
That's despicable.
I probably would go Henderson just because I think his ceiling is a little bit higher because of the long speed and how explosive he is. And also as a pass catcher, I think, you can really, I think the Jahmyr Gibbs comp is a little bit rich because Gibbs was more of a unique athlete, but like
very much agree.
mover. But it's easy to see the vision for a player like Henderson in that sort of framework, right? Because
Yeah.
he really is. But that said, like Quinshon Judkins, I think before I went back and watched, I was like, "Ah, he's like the big bruiser back," and like, no, he is also a great pass catcher. He is also, I thought he was like a lot smoother as a runner than I imagined. Not as he's just not quite as fast, but he obviously gives you not obviously, but he gives you more ability to break tackles and so funny. I posted something about that and I got a lot of replies that were like, he actually ranks the lowest in like the broken tackle rank. I was like, I don't know what y'all are watching. Like,
It's because he's so willing to burrow, right? Like he will,
maybe that's
yeah,
it.
he'll
Yeah.
get to the line, he'll realize that, like, all right, like I'm not popping a
He's
big one, I'm
strong.
not going to third level, and he will just put his nose down, go to daylight, and he'll just kind of push that pile forward. Where like Henderson will go break 2 tackles to get 2 less yards because he'll go and bounce outside, right? Like make a safety miss and what have you. So yeah, I agree. I think if you're watching, you can see that Judkins is everything he needs to be as a tackle breaker.
So are you Henderson or Jenkins yourself?
I lean Judkins. I made you pick. It's a tough hair to
It's
split.
so
Yeah,
close. They're both so good.
I
Right.
tend to prefer a player who, like I said with Judkins, will not make the mistakes behind the line of scrimmage
Yeah.
that put my
He's just
offense off
going forward.
schedule. Yeah, because the thing I like in a back is keep my offense on schedule, get me to
Yeah.
second and six, and Judkins will die to get me to second and six. He's rocked up, right? I mean, he is body beautiful. Judkins is, and so he has that ability. He has an active offhand. He'll drop his pads. Like he will break NFL tackles, NFL size. Makes the good reads. He's not
Good
great
reads.
right now catching the ball and there's some concentration drops, but I think that he's good in space because he has burst. Right? He was a 90th percentile jumper. Like he has the short area burst, and like I say, he can finish behind his pad. So I want to be able to get him the ball in the passing game. You just didn't see that a lot from Ohio State because they had Henderson in the Gibbs role, right? They said
Yeah.
we already have our guy who we like on third down. But if you go and you look at like when they were backed up, right? Short yardage situations, third down, fourth down. You go look at goal line. You go look at backed up against your own red zone, man. Every single thing for
He'll get you out of there, a
yeah,
jam, and then he'll
yeah,
finish for you.
and
He's a finisher.
he has twice as many carries
Uh,
that Henderson does in like all of those contexts. Like he was trustworthy. He was home base them. He was the early down guy, and then Henderson is the zippy stuff. And so I understand why people gravitate towards Henderson accordingly. But if
yeah.
you told me, hey, one of the 2 Ohio State backs becomes a 3 down, 200 plus touch player in the NFL, which one is it? I'm betting on Judkins figuring out the pass catching stuff in Henderson's absence relative to Henderson suddenly becoming like a reliable player between the tackles. That I think is a harder skill to gain than Judkins with the pass catching.
Yeah, I think again to go back to the Gibbs thing, I do remember like that was the question everyone had about Gibbs is like between the tackles. And I just feel like I've seen enough reps from Henderson, especially I think he has some of the decision making is a little bit this is actually not too dissimilar how I felt about Gibbs, where I was like, oh, bouncing, I don't know. But
Gibbs at least like
there
was the primary ball carrier at
yeah.
Alabama, whereas Henderson was not like for Ohio State. That's one of the things I struggle with.
Um yeah, I think the Ohio State offense just had so many mouths to feed across the board too, where it was kind of it's like you watching, you're like, oh yeah, I see why you guys wanted it.
Yeah.
I see. Um, I think like so. Like I said, I think Henderson has a little bit of a higher ceiling. Judkins has a higher floor. I wish Judkins had a little bit more wiggle. To be honest, he is he does all the things you just said. He's really really good at getting north south and keeping your offense in time. But it's funny. Like I talked about the topic about how Ashton Jeanty always makes the first man miss. Judkins doesn't make the first man miss the same way, and I do wish that was a little bit more on tape. That said, if you put him in an offense where defense has to account for the pass catchers the way they did with Ohio State, I think he could really thrive. He's a closer. Like he will finish for
That's
you.
yeah.
The game that comes to mind is the Penn State game, the final
Mhm.
5 minutes. Chip Kelly was just like, end this.
Yeah,
And
that's where he
he
reminded me a
literally
lot of Chuba Hubbard. Is the one of the names I wrote down because
yeah,
the Panthers would go to Chuba and be like, "Man, just eat clock for us," and Chuba just
yeah.
consistently was getting them the yard to gain. That's who he reminded me the most of.
It's gonna be if the Raiders don't take Jeanty, I gotta think they're gonna take one of these guys for Chip. I don't know, and that's an interesting choice.
I wonder who he would take would be very telling, right? Who
Right?
do you
Be
trust? Do you want the
interesting.
explosiveness? Kind of what do you think of your guys?
I don't know. They're both really good. Okay, so Samson, I talked about a lot on the Combine Pod. I think in a gap scheme, he could be absolutely sensational.
Lightning in a bottle, yeah.
So Caleb Johnson, Skattebo. um, you mentioned Damian Martinez. Speaking of Gav guys, and then you had one more. The Virginia Tech, right?
Facial Tuten, yeah. Tuten ran in the
Okay.
4.3s at the NFL Combine. You go put the film on. Talk about slalom skiers, guys who are
Yeah.
and the moguls, right? The guys who just kind of have that side to side wiggle in the hips and the upper body stays still. Man, Tuten is just picky, just weaving his way right through. It's very nice to watch. You when you go and you watch. Oh, why did why did all these Shanahan guys, why did they like their Matt Bredas and the Raheem Mosterts and all these dudes? It's the exact same running style, and then it's the long speed.
Mm.
The big knock on Tuten, because he's got NFL size, 5'9", 206. Not big, but he's big enough, right? That's Chase Brown size. The knock is the fumbles. He puts the ball on the ground a lot. And so if you prescribe to fumbles are kind of noisy and random, and that's something that you can, statistically you can do much better at. Then the mark on Tuna's case is a little bit undersized, and he's a zone runner. But other than that, like this is a set it and forget it round 3 guy who we can give carries to in that system. So to me, he's like the wide zone back du jour. There's always one in every single class, and so Tuten is the dude there. I like him quite a bit.
Over Caleb Johnson.
So Caleb is a little bit different, right? Because you still want to run him on zone, but Caleb is because he has such a big body, right? And he can kind of
Right.
bang through the tackles, and he'll
What?
turn every 3-yard run into 5 and every 5 into 7. Tuten's the dude who's going to hit the home runs.
Really? I feel like Caleb Johnson is also a home run hitter. I have questions about him. I think he's very scheme specific, and he bounces a little bit in a way that drives me crazy. And I think there's too many. I feel like there's too many negative plays, but man, he in the open field is really something to behold.
Yeah.
At his size.
He'll hit the big runs because just nobody can drag him down, right? Because he's carrying 220 and he's moving it when he gets to the third level. I got frustrated with Johnson the same way you did with some of the vision stuff, the decisiveness stuff. I think it's easy to chop that tree down in the first level too. I mean, he's very high cut. He does not like to sink his hips. He does not have great knee bend, and so he's got to get a runway. I don't like backs who need to get a runway. I think Tuten is as dangerous when he gets the runway, but then he's better when he doesn't. And so to me, Tuten's the guy there.
All right, I'm gonna give a last endorsement for Skattebo.
The way you smile when you talk about Cam Skattebo is so funny.
I mean,
Love
he's
him.
a hilarious player,
He's so
right?
good.
He's literally he's not going to be your RB1, I think, in the league, but I definitely can see a vision for him as a useful NFL player.
Mhm.
I mean, the dude is he just doesn't go down. He just won't go down. So at the goal line, I mean, his leg turn is absolutely ridiculous. He loves contact
To a point where he will not run to daylight, but will run to darkness to go hit somebody. You're like, Cam, please.
But, and this is why I think he's worth a draft pick. He's not just like a bowling ball of knives. He's weirdly incredible at catching passes.
Yeah.
Like he actually, and it's not just on screens. It's not just that he's bowling dudes over. He got some wiggle. Weirdly more as a pass catcher than as a back. It shows up the elusiveness and but again, look, give me a prospect, mid-round prospect who you can put in the goal line and in short yardage and also is a threat to catch passes. That's a useful football player. And I do believe he is it's the pass catching that puts him over the edge for me.
Right. Now there are multiple routes to utility with him if he's in a committee, right? Because it's okay. We can give him the ball behind the line of scrimmage. You said the short yardage stuff. He had that touchdown against, I want to say it was Tech this year, where like he gets a goal line carry and he gets contacted like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and makes it in. That's obnoxious. And then like you say, he's very natural catching passes. He is an absolute weeble wobble, right? I mean, he is just built. He's just round, dense, and just bounces off of contact. Does not hit the ground. Just a unique aversion to being tackled. The lack of big plays will keep a tight ceiling on that NFL projection. But no, he's going to be beloved by the fan base.
I was going to say, whatever team he lands on, he's going to be like instantly
more touches for Scat. More touches for Skattebo.
Okay, so Damian Martinez was your last. I'm going to pound the table for a little bit for this guy. He's a fun player, so I'm excited to.
So Damian Martinez, we talked about Caleb Johnson and being a bigger back who plays. Yeah, so Caleb Johnson being a bigger back who plays in an outside zone system. Martinez started his career at Oregon State. They were a zone team, and Martinez was just like an unbelievable highlight reel, just drop kicking dudes in the third level, throwing 3 guys off of him. He had that sort of Caleb Johnson effect. He transfers to Miami. They're a lot more gap power and RPO, and they're running the different things. Martinez does not have the sort of first level juice that you'd like for a player like that to have. He doesn't get up on you quick. Oh, baby, once he's up on you, though, I mean, an aversion to the ground like I have not seen in
Yeah.
years, where he will have 3 guys draped on his back, and he's still just standing there, turning his legs, waiting for an offensive lineman to come push him. A truly blue chip level of toughness and play strength. And then he has. I remember watching Ramondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma. There are some backs who just have real quiet feet, real sweet feet. They can jump cut on you, and you're just never ready for it. And that's Martinez, where every time a defensive back comes to him, they go, I know just how well this guy can change direction, and then he's gone. He's a wisp of smoke, and it's glancing contact. Everybody bounces off him because he's just a lot springier left and right laterally than people give him credit for. So Martinez is the guy to me, talking about that Ramondre Stevenson sort of a role. I don't think anyone's going to ever love him as 20 plus carries. I don't know if he's got that level of a talent. But we talked about this with Lauren, a unique player who will present unique challenges if you use him in the correct way. That's Martinez, and you can get him like round 4. And so to me, like, he's good. He's got power background, he's got zone background, he's got tackle breaking background, then he's got more wiggle than you expect. Very interesting player.
So let's wrap this way. As we've talked about all these backs, I think, we see it similarly where you've got we have one just like all world prospect, one amazing prospects in terms of Jeanty and Hampton, and then you've got a bunch of RB1 starter types, the Ohio State backs, and you and I see after that a couple more guys I think maybe in that group. And then I think we're both in agreement that in the mid rounds, 3rd, 4th, 5th, there's a lot of backs who are very scheme specific or usage specific, can just be like excellent fits on NFL teams, whether it's like you need a 3rd down back, you need a pass catcher, you need a zone guy, whatever. Am I wrong in saying this is probably one of the best running back classes like in years? I mean, because I am so excited about so many of these players and trying to put them on NFL teams. And I think we've got multiple starters in this group.
Yeah. When I think of good running back classes, my mind always immediately goes to 2020. How we felt about that group coming out, which the earliest pick was Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 32 overall. It's not like they had like a Jeanty. But then it was him, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, and A.J. Dillon all went in the top like 64 picks. That's 6 selections. That class was the one where like everybody had like a different first round favorite, whatever, but like the talent was really deep. This class is better than that class in my estimation, right? It's better than that group, like 22, which had Hall, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, Rachaad White. I think this class is better than that. So in my like recent active memory, I mean, 2018 was the Saquon, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, Ronald Jones year. Also Rashad Penny. Shout out the Seahawks taking Penny. But like, to me, like I would expect more round 1, round 2 picks. I'm expecting like, potentially 6 from this group. And then I think the top level with Jeanty and Hampton is better.
So high.
To me, I think it is.
I mean, you got 2 backs who I think we both believe should go in the first round, and then at least 2 to 3 who in the second round we feel really good about. That in and of itself is a wild thing to say, given the value question that it remains and persists. And what we've seen with Saquon does not take away from that at all. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped about this group. So, and the tight end group.
2017 had 30 running backs taken. That was a really good year. Fournette, McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt. James Conner was in that class.
Okay.
That 2017 class might be the one we measure this one up against.
Okay. Yeah. That's crazy.
Fournette went 4 and McCaffrey went 8, and then Dalvin Cook was off the board at 41. I don't think Jeanty Hampton is 4 and 8, but that 2 first half of the first round picks, and then you start to see guys early round 2. That 2017 might be the one to compare to here.
I forgot that all those guys in the later rounds. That was the Kamara draft too. Wow. Jeez Louise.
Aaron Jones in round 5 of that draft. Lord of mercy.
Oh my God. Okay, so could be the best running back class since 2017 is how we will end this. Very exciting. You guys should definitely check out Ben's draft show. I'll post links to it on ESPN's YouTube channel. Next week, I'm going to do another War Room mock draft, and then I'm going to be talking about some of the top defensive players in the draft. So come back for that. If you watch this on YouTube, you can check it out wherever you get your pods and audio, vice versa. Thank you, as always, to everybody at Omaha Productions for your help making this. Kirsten Sabecki, Anthony Jimenez, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, and Tucker Tashjian.